Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Equity Residences National Webinar. I'm John Long, one of the managing directors, and with me here is
Greg Sally. Welcome, everyone. So as we start, we'd like to just remind you that we have a private placement memorandum that you should refer to for specifics of the investment. But what we're going to do is talk about an overview of the fund, the Equity Platinum Fund, and where we're headed. So as an overview, this is really an innovative and proven investment model for investing in luxury vacation properties. We invest in bought-right, multi-million-dollar vacation residences for investment gains, and these allow us to produce luxury, rent-free vacations that effectively is how you can take your dividend in your investment. We have lower fees with no annual operating fee, and this includes a dividend opportunity based on excess rental income. It's also managed by a team of experienced investment and hospitality professionals and provides ultimate flexibility for more options to meet your needs. You'll find that we have one of the most flexible models in the industry.
what you're seeing now is the Equity Residences portfolio of properties. We launched in 2012 with the Equity Villa Fund and then subsequently launched the Equity Platinum Fund in 2016. We've got residences that span from Hawaii to Deer Valley, California, Florida, and into Mexico, and we're starting to make acquisitions in Europe and South America and the Caribbean. You'll see in the upper left our Manalani Hawaii home in the Equity Platinum Fund that's under construction and will be ready this Christmas. Lake Tahoe properties, Florida properties, 3 or 4 Hawaii properties. Spectacular luxury portfolio. This house here is the Equity Residences North Star residence. It's about 3,400 square feet, 4-bedroom house. It's mid-mountain, right below the Ritz-Carlton. Ski-in, ski-out residence below the gondola. New construction. It was built last year in 2016, and we are one of the first buyers of these luxury new residences mid-mountain. You'll see here some photos. It's got an outdoor fire pit right underneath the gondola. You literally jump off that deck in the winter right onto the ski run. You've got views of the Sierra Nevadas from the living room, all glass window walls facing out over the mountains. Beautiful modern kitchen, bathrooms, bedrooms, etc. This next property is a Manalani Resort residence that is being built inside the Manalani Resort near the Manalani Beach Club. It's walking distance to the beach club. It has ocean views and a private pool. It's a 4-bedroom, 4.5-bath, 4,100 square foot house that'll be ready for our investors this winter.
Here you see the private beach club that you have access from the Manalani property. So this is very close by, and you and your guests would have full access to that. You just cruise literally a couple blocks using your golf cart that will be provided. You're actually right on the golf course, so you have views across the golf course towards the ocean.
This next property is one of our most recent acquisitions in the Platinum Fund. It's a 5-bedroom, 4.5-bath adjacent to Rosemary Beach in a private gated water's edge community. The house is literally 100 steps to the beach. It's also a short walk to the Rosemary Beach Town Center. We recently remodeled the property, so it's brand new furnishings, fit out, kitchens, baths, and there's the path down to the beach that's literally right outside the front door.
So as we look at, part of our investment thesis is how we buy the properties for investment gains for our investors. And the way we do that is, one, understanding what locations and types of properties provide good rental yield and deliver a good investor experience. There's certain places we wouldn't buy because the seasonality is too great, so we're not going to buy up in the Hamptons. And other places we wouldn't buy because they don't provide the type of luxury experience that our investors expect, or perhaps they're too difficult to get to on a relatively easy basis. So understanding those destinations that will work, and then applying a data-driven approach to determine appreciation and cash flow potential of specific properties. We develop and we educate local market contacts to help identify opportunities as soon as they become available. And that allows us to be opportunistic in some cases. And we can move fast with all cash offers, often beating out other folks and locking up properties before they've even had a chance to evaluate them. We have experience negotiating with developers, lien holders, and private parties, and willingness and expertise to remodel and make smart property improvements to improve the value. We also have the ability to canvass multiple markets simultaneously to source the best deals. So we're, even right now, we're looking across multiple markets, and we have in our mind an idea of the order of the next few properties we'll buy. But if a great opportunity came up tomorrow in a market that we thought was going to be third on our list, we might move that up to first on our list to take advantage of that. I'm going to walk through 3 examples of how we've created value. The first example is an exclusive developer deal. So we were the first buyer of these 6 stellar ski-in, ski-out residences mid-mountain near the Ritz-Carlton. On this property, we negotiated extended closing terms of 6 months. We also negotiated price concessions resulting in a net price of $2.95 million. Because of the terms we negotiated, 2 identical residences, there were 6 total built, 2 identical of those closed for as high as $3.55 million before our property even closed, meaning that the day we closed, we were up $600,000 relative to these comps, or 20%. We also negotiated an exclusive right to run our multi-owner model in these 6 units and the ability to transfer that right to a future buyer, and we think that provides an opportunity for a premium on the resale. So that's one example of how we created value for investors. Another example would be this Rosemary Beach, Florida property. This was an opportunistic purchase and a remodel. The seller needed a quick close. Their buyer was unable to perform on time, and they were unable to get an extension on the property they were purchasing. They needed to do a 1031 exchange, which is a tax-free exchange, and there's some very strict rules about timeframes and how you can do that. So in order to accomplish that, we negotiated a 9-day all-cash close in exchange for a $200,000 price reduction to get us to a net price of $1.49 million. We had the ability to move quickly because we had researched the market and made local market contacts and had the available cash. We subsequently then invested $200,000 remodeling the home and upgrading the furnishings. And just as a reference point, when we were doing that due diligence, we were aware that 4 houses down, a similar new construction property with marginally better views was going to be listed for $3.5 million, and that property has since been listed for $3.5 million. A third option is one that we're in negotiations on now, but this is looking at buying at market lows, and different parts of the world have recovered at different paces from the economic downturn. Many parts of the U.S. are largely recovered and hitting market peaks again. Other locations, such as Tuscany, Italy, are actually at 12-plus year lows. They've seen a decline for 8 straight years as they're taking longer to work through bad loans than the U.S. And one of the 3rd largest banks is based right in central Tuscany. Earlier this month, it was announced that they're being bailed out by the Italian government. They have a lot of bad loans, a lot of foreclosures to work through. And so it gives us the opportunity to go in there and still buy properties at market lows that can deliver good cap rates. We're currently negotiating the purchase of a Tuscany villa that we expect the investment could double over a 10-plus year time horizon. And we intend to add similar investments in other depressed countries as part of this portfolio, including Portugal, Italy, Spain, and Greece. Some of our near-term acquisitions are in a variety of locations. So we're looking in Los Cabos, Mexico, to expand our West Coast options. We're looking in the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica. We're looking at, as I mentioned, Tuscany, Italy, the Caribbean with places like Cap Cana, Dominican Republic, and Turks and Caicos, as well as adding additional ski properties in places like Deer Valley and Vail.
Thanks, Greg. I'm going to walk you through now just the Equity Platinum Fund overview and explain how the fund works and what the investment thesis is. From the very beginning, what we tried to do at Equity Residences was pull together really the best of both worlds. Luxury vacation benefits with a best-in-class investment value. From a luxury vacation benefit perspective, what we've managed to pull together with the Equity Platinum Fund is the lowest fees and cost per night for luxury vacations in the industry. We have access to hundreds of luxury resorts through our affiliates, Elite Alliance and Third Home. We've ensured that the portfolio doesn't have blackout dates, so you can go when you want, over holidays, etc. And we've added to our portfolio of great real estate investments personal concierge services, personal chefs, equity experience inside the property, and really made sure that that experience is at the top tier for what our investors might expect with their families. From a best-in-class investment perspective, as Greg just walked you through, we're making smart real estate investments with expected upside potential. 90% of our capital, greater than 90% of our capital, is invested in real estate. There are no large syndication fees with our fund. You have the option for no annual fees by returning some vacation usage every year. We also have a dividend opportunity based on excess rental income. Those last 2 points of no annual fees and a dividend opportunity are an innovative, unique aspect of what Equity Residences pulled together for its investors. And then lastly, there's a liquidation and profit distribution within a set time frame. We manage a 10-year fund, and our investors know that they're going to get capital returned at the end of the term. So what are your investment options? Our standard price for one unit in the Equity Platinum Fund is $157,500 per unit. We're still in the early phases of raising money and buying properties, so we have a charter price of $142,500. That scales up pro rata with the number of units that you acquire, and after one unit you can buy in half-unit increments. So most of our investors currently are investing in the $200,000 to $300,000 range for the Equity Platinum Fund. What that gets you from a weeks of usage perspective is anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks for one unit, up to 4 to 10 weeks for 3 units. And it's a range because your usage is commensurate with the value of that week at the property in the season. So it requires more of your allotted credits every year to go to a $4 million house over Christmas as it would to go to a $1.8 million house in the off season or in the summer. And we'll walk through that in a few minutes. With those, with your investment in the weeks of usage, then come annual vacation value, which ranges anywhere from $12,000 per year to over $50,000 of vacation value, depending on what your investment level is and what trips you take. And then for that vacation value, as I had mentioned, one of the innovative aspects about our fund is that we have a no annual fee option. So for a one unit investment, your annual fee can be $0 or it can be up to about $3,000 per year. So even by paying the annual fees in the Equity Residences portfolio, we still have the lowest annual fees in the industry. And then with respect to having great investment value, there's a potential return of capital that's expected at about 1.5x. So let me walk through just a quick 2-unit example. So for starters, you make an upfront investment of around $285,000 for 2 units. That's a charter pricing of $142,000. You'll get 3 to 7 weeks of annual usage plus unlimited space available. So in our portfolio, if any of the properties are available last minute, you can use that property without having to use any of your allotted time or credits for your investment. You can then opt to pay the annual fee and have more vacations per year, or pick the no annual fee option. You return some of your allotted usage every year and you never pay an annual fee. You'll then receive anywhere from $24,000 to $35,000 of annual vacation value, which equates to about a 9 to 12% annual return on investment from your initial invested capital. Then after the 10 to 12 years, upon liquidation, you'll have the opportunity to receive up to 1.5x of your initial investment back. So what we have is an annual preferred return of free vacation use with a long-term, low-risk real estate investment to return capital plus appreciation at the end of the term. So you'll see in the chart on the right that $285,000 upfront investment has a total return expectation of over $700,000. So I mentioned that there's a range of weeks available as an investor, ranging from 1 to 3 up to 4 to 10 weeks, and more depending on where you go and how you use your credits. This chart is from our offering memorandum, and it illustrates what a 2-unit investor might do with 28 credits per year. So what an investor might opt to do is select our newest residence and go spend Christmas in Hawaii at Mauna Lani. This is a $3.5 million ocean view residence right near the private beach club that you would have access to. And this property would require 24 of your 28 credits. So you would have this one luxury week, and then you'd have 4 other credits remaining that you could do an off-peak week at potentially a Park City property in the mountains in the fall, or exchange into Elite Alliance or Third Home and get a second week of usage at some point during the year. Another thing you could do with your 28 credits is take a ski week in Lake Tahoe. So our $3.5 million ski in, ski out North Star Lake Tahoe residence would require 12 credits during ski season. You could also take spring break in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, and use another 12 credits. And then again, have another 4 credits for an off-season week or Elite Alliance or Third Home exchange. Alternatively, we would have a portfolio of other residences that would only require 6 credits to use, and you could cobble together 4 or 5 weeks of usage. Frankly, you could stay really up to 6+ weeks of usage, depending on if you went off-peak in the mountains or exchanged into Elite Alliance and stayed at 2-bedroom residences. So the amount of the credits required is really dependent on the value of the residence, dependent on the season you stay, and in some cases even the number of bedrooms, whether it's a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, or 4-bedroom. So really, at the end of the day, it's up to you and what your family wants to do each year as to how you'd allocate those credits and how many vacations you would take. One last thing, that when we bring it all together and we have great partner experience for luxury vacations while also delivering great investment value, our stellar North Star residence that we've owned for a year, and we've had both our partners and our affiliates and our income-generating renters use this property. And what you'll see in this example, if you look to the bar on the right, the nightly rental cost of this property during ski season is $2,335 per night. Now, our investors that opt to pay their annual fee for more credits and incremental usage would equate to a $555 cost per night with the optional annual fee. So as you can see in this example, even by paying the annual fee to ensure that you have more credits and usage, you're getting tremendous value of a $555 cost per night versus a $2,300 nightly value. Now, for our investors that opt not to pay the annual fee and just use their limited amount of credits for fewer vacations, they could still use their credits. So a 2-unit investor could return their credits, pay no annual fee, still have credits to go take a ski week in January or February at Lake Tahoe, and their equated cost per night would be about $128 per night for a $2,300 residence.
The other part of this is the experience you get. These are high-end luxury properties. To be honest, the properties we've talked about, the North Star Resort property, the Mauna Lani Resort property, our Rosemary Beach property by the beach, I would put those up against anybody's properties out there in terms of their level of quality and fit and finish. And not only that, we also provide concierge services, so you can have your groceries pre-stocked before you arrive. You'll have things such as private chef services arranged where they'll actually come in and prepare a meal for you. We also, depending on the location, will include different types of either equipment or facilities. Our North Star Resort property has access to a private club where it has a lounge with complimentary beverages. It has an Olympic-sized pool, a hot tub, a gym, just top-notch facilities. I mentioned the private beach club at Mauna Lani. There's a restaurant there. There's beach chairs there with, all ready for you to use. So this is all about, not just about investment, but it's also all about that experience and that luxury experience. I'll talk a little bit about an example with the concierge at that private club in North Star called the Treehouse. So there was a weekend birthday adventure curated for a couple that she set up a sunset champagne tour, dinner with that private chef, husband and wife massages, yoga, and had the whole house decorated prior to arrival. So this was a way that through the concierge services we were able to make a very special trip that was well planned out and ready for these particular guests before they even showed up.
Before I jump into the year in the life of an Equity Residences investor, I just want to mention that we're going to take Q&A at the end, but we're also happy to have you field some questions as we continue this presentation. So please use the question box there through your kind of portal, through GoToWebinar. There's a box you can click and ask a question. Greg and I will get those, and we'll either answer them on through or we'll answer them at the end. So this chart here, the year in the life of an Equity Residences investor, it's actually 2 years in the life of an investor in Equity Residences that is both an equity villa fund and an equity platinum fund investor. So this family has gotten maximum value out of their investments in our two funds. What you'll see on your screen is all the many different destinations that they were able to visit over their first 2 years as an investor. And one thing to note is I mentioned that we have unlimited space available access in our portfolio. Our affiliates have a similar mechanism where both through Elite Alliance and Third Home, of which Greg will explain those affiliate networks in a few minutes, they have access to their portfolio of properties within an allotted last-minute window. So some of these trips would be $10,000 or $15,000 trips that this specific investor potentially paid $895 to get that $15,000 of value. So there's tremendous value with respect to last-minute trips, of which some of these that you'll see up here are. You'll notice here on this chart that this investor managed to go to the Four Seasons Aviara in San Diego, the Ritz in St. Thomas, the Viceroy in Anguilla, Esperanza in Los Cabos, Mayakama in Sonoma. So these are all destinations that aren't owned by Equity Residences, but we have access to through our affiliates, and easy access that allows our investors to actually go and stay at these properties. What you'll also see up here is our Deer Valley house, our Big Island residence, our residence in Palm Springs, that Stella North Star house down at the bottom that Greg walked you through. So those are all part of our portfolio and properties that this investor was able to visit with their friends and family.
So we have two affiliate partnerships. The first one is with Elite Alliance, which is a network of luxury fractional resorts around the world. I've personally had the opportunity to stay at some of these. One example is Esperanza down in Los Cabos, which is just top-notch luxury facility. We had 4 bedrooms, 5 baths, gourmet kitchen, outdoor kitchen, private hot tub, access to resort pools, exercise facilities, concierge, restaurants. It's just a top-notch experience, as are all these fractional resorts. What you're able to do is return some of your usage in the Equity Platinum Fund, and then you're issued credits into Elite Alliance, and you can use those credits to go ahead and book trips. The other thing you can take advantage of is short notice stays. So with Elite Alliance, about 30 to 45 days out, if they haven't booked the property, if it's available, you can raise your hand, you can go there without using any credits. You'll have to pay them an exchange fee, but you're able to with that exchange fee, then go stay on a property, and that's really bonus usage that you can get through affiliates such as this. The other partnership we have is with Third Home, and Third Home I would describe as a network of luxury residences with an average value of $2.4 million, and these are typically individual residences. So you may have somebody that has a home on the beach in the Bahamas or in the mountains of Aspen, and what they do is they put their home and make their home available in the exchange, and then in return, we make our properties available in the exchange, and so our investors can then go stay in this network of homes, which numbers over 9,000 homes around the world. This is another case where you can get tremendous value out of it. You have, with their Chairman's Club membership, a short notice stay option where roughly 30 days out you can go out and book a property, again, not use any credits, but instead just pay a small exchange fee. And I'll give you an example. A few weeks before Christmas, I was looking at some options of where I could go during Christmas week, and I looked at some options in different ski destinations. I looked at some options in some different beach destinations down in Mexico, and we ended up pulling the trigger on staying in a 3-bedroom, 4-bath property on the north shore of Lake Tahoe with lake views. I used no credits for this stay. It was during the week of Christmas, over Christmas. They, set up a Christmas tree for me before I arrived, and I only paid $800 for the stay with no credits or anything else required. Fantastic property. We had a great time. We actually had, I think, 4 blizzards that year over Christmas week. And to be able to do that for $800 is really amazing, and it's a bonus to the usage you get just by investing in the fund.
So I want to add to that, because both Greg and I are investors in both the Villa Fund and the Platinum Fund, and I've managed with my family, as an investor in the funds, has managed to take advantage of not only visiting all of the spectacular properties that Equity Residences owns, but to Greg's example, we've had great success using both the Lead Alliance and Third Home. I managed to take my sister-in-law to the Bahamas for her one of her big birthdays, and we took 2 families down to the Bahamas. And a lot of people ask how this conversion works, and typically we set up so what would be a week in our fund is also a week at a like-for-like property within our affiliate networks. That said, as I mentioned, it depends on how many bedrooms and whether it's peak season or off season. And I have an example where, for what would have been a 1-week conversion where I get 6 credits in the Lead Alliance, I only had to use 1 or 2 of them to go stay at a 3-bedroom penthouse in the Bahamas with 2 families and our kids. It was spectacular. I've also managed to book Mayakoma in Sonoma over a friend's wedding. I've managed to go to Esperanza, where Greg has as well, for my wedding anniversary. And all these trips were kind of seamless and easy to book.
So let's summarize what this means for investors. You have a one-time upfront investment starting at roughly $136,000 for the Equity Platinum Fund, and that price is actually gradually going up. You get a preferred return in the form of vacation usage at hundreds of residences around the world. You have a no annual fee option. You have an opportunity to earn annual cash dividends. You benefit from long-term capital appreciation from holding a low-risk asset with an expected 1.5 return on average across the portfolio. And it's a diversified investment through holding a portfolio of residences and destinations from Hawaii to California to Florida to Mexico to Europe. And I consider it a relatively low-risk investment because we plan to operate these properties with no debt, which means we're not in a position where we'll be forced to sell, and we can weather any kind of a downturn. But because we're finding good investment opportunities, we have a lot of upside from the property appreciation, from the cost per night and the savings you have versus if you were to go out and rent and stay in properties on your own. And it really provides a multifaceted value to investors. We're going to now open up a Q&A session that we would like to just walk through any questions that you may have. One of the first questions that I'm seeing here is, when you go to book a property, are you able to get the weeks you want? And the answer is that we've had a ton of success at getting folks in for the weeks they want, and there's for a few different reasons. One is, if you look at any kind of other shared usage model out there, our model, as it compares to destination clubs, really gives preferential booking to our investors, and we assume our investors are going to take 35 to 40% of the occupancy. But due to some of our investors exchanging through our Lead Alliance and Third Home Partners, in reality we see closer to 25 to 30% of the occupancy, which means there's a lot less conflict. We also have a very personal and individualized investment, our reservation process, where we ask you specifics about what's your motivation? Do you want to go a certain week because it's your kid's spring break? Are you just trying to get to a ski property in Colorado during February or March? What is it you're looking for? And by tailoring that, we kind of fit the reservation window together like a puzzle, optimizing it across the investors. And then if we do run into a conflict, we leverage our partnerships with Third Home and the Lead Alliance to find a substitute property. The net result is we rarely have conflicts that we aren't able to resolve and work through, unlike several other options out there where they regularly run into conflicts when trying to schedule reservations.
The next question I see is what is the fundraising window, and when does the 10-year clock start ticking? Well, our partnership agreement was set up so that we had 48 months to raise capital, and we closed that window at the earlier of 48 months or the 50 million in capital raise. So we have a really good trajectory right now, so we may close the fund before the 48 months. But we do have until we're 1 year into that, so we have three years left in our fundraising window, and that's when the 10-year clock starts. So the 10-year clock starts after we close the fundraising window. Now, I also want to be clear that that 10-year fixed period could be a few years less. It's not absolutely set to where at 10 years. The general partner has some discretion to ensure that we maximize your investments. And so if the general partner sees that there's an opportune time to liquidate some of the properties early, we're going to do that. And the reason for the 10-year window was to ensure the window was large enough to capture the next real estate cycle. So we might see some compression in the real estate market over that term before another rise and appreciation in the properties. But at the right time, the general partner will take that opportunity and liquidate the properties appropriately.
Another question is, do we rent the properties? And the answer is yes. So we rent the properties and we use the income from those rentals to help offset the operating fees, which is what really allows us to have the lowest operating fees in the industry. Now these renters that are renting a $3.5 to $4 million property and paying $15,000 a week are also high net worth individuals staying in the properties, and they typically are occasionally become investors. We've had multiple examples of folks who first rented the property, really loved the experience, and realized that they could get a much better value being an investor versus continuing to rent.
Yeah, actually, one of those investors was that chart of the 2 years in the life of investor, where they found us through VRBO and looking at our Maui property. There's a question here as a follow-up to the question that Greg just asked, which was, with respect to the rentals, does the general partner share in any of that rental income? The answer to that is no, is that the rental income is all for the partners and to offset their operating costs of the property. So that rental income, and frankly, we have an in-house captive property manager, a property management company that is set up to manage the rentals through VRBO and HomeAway and Airbnb, while also managing the guest relations of our investors. And that team also is not commission-based. So there is a fixed cost to execute the property management functions for our two funds, and all of the rental income then goes towards the specific funds and the investors to offset their costs. And that's a reason why we have the lowest fees in the industry, is because we have that rental income opportunity.
Another question here is, how do the properties differ between the Equity Platinum Fund and the Equity Villa Fund? So the funds were focused on two very different aspects of the market. The Villa Fund is really more $1 million to $1.5 million properties on average that hit kind of a really good sweet spot for cap rate, etc. But the Platinum Fund takes it to another level. The typical Platinum Fund property is $1.5 million to $4 million. And frankly, I would put our properties in the Platinum Fund in terms of location and fit and finish up against any competitor in the industry. We've got really top-notch properties in top-notch locations with high-end finishes, high-end kitchens. It's just really, really special places and special properties.
Yeah, they really are. The next question that I'm seeing, and it's kind of a follow-on to that 10-year investment utilization period of the assets, is the question is it possible to exit before the 10-year window? The answer is yes. Our partnership agreement really is very liberal with respect to selling or transferring your interest. We really do not have any restrictions on that. Unlike some of the destination club models in the early days where it was 10 in, 1 out, where there's, frankly, even I think today there's a 10-year waiting list to get out of exclusive resorts. Our model is if you raise your hand, the general partner will facilitate trying to sell that, given our own marketing efforts, and or you can find your own buyer or transfer those interests. So we try to make it easy, but we haven't really had any of those go through yet.
Another question is, do we have audited financials? And the answer is yes. Our Platinum Fund financials are audited. We went through our first audit as we closed the books on 2016, and we will continue to be audited on an annual basis. And as part of our process for investors, we have an annual partner webinar. We share audited financials. We share an annual report in terms of the performance of the fund, and then we get onto a webinar and share where we're going with the fund, answer any questions from investors, and that's something we do every year. With that, we're actually out of time. We do have some more questions outstanding. We'll try to follow up with those of you that have left questions. Others that haven't had a chance to ask yours yet, feel free to follow up with John or myself, and we'll be happy to answer those. Thank you for joining.
Yes, thanks everybody.